All right, let's get right into it. Tonight, we're going to do a deep dive into Friday the 13th, A New Beginning.
A new beginning, huh?
Yeah, it's a film that, stirred up the franchise a bit.
Definitely shook things up.
Yeah, and for those who haven't seen it, spoiler alert, this film picks up a few years after the events of the final chapter.
Right.
So Tommy Jarvis, the kid who took Jason down.
Mm-hmm.
He's back, but he's older now.
Right.
And let's just say those childhood traumas are still haunting him.
Oh, yeah. They definitely haven't vanished.
So Tommy gets sent to Pinehurst, which is supposed to be like this peaceful halfway house for troubled teens. But surprise, surprise, things go south pretty quickly.
Of course.
That opening scene in the graveyard, whew, talk about setting the mood.
Chills, man.
Right, you see Jason literally like bursting out of the grave.
It's like, oh, here we go again.
Exactly, another Jason rampage. But that's where A New Beginning gets really clever. It tricks you.
It plays with your expectations.
Makes you think you know what's coming. But then, boom, total plot twist.
Yeah, the filmmakers knew they couldn't just rehash the same old Jason formulas, so they brought in this mystery. Is Jason really back, or is it all in Tommy's head?
It's genius. And then there's Pinehurst itself, like this pressure cooker, teenage angst, hormones, and impending doom.
Yeah, like a powder keg waiting to explode.
You've got Pam, the director, trying to keep everyone in line, Reggie trying to be a mentor to Tommy, and then a bunch of troubled kids.
Each with their own issues, their own baggage.
And man, the violence in this film is something else.
Yeah, A New Beginning definitely didn't skimp on the gore.
They really went all out.
Axes, garden shears, machetes, you name it.
The kills are creative, brutal, and there's a lot of them. The filmmakers really upped the ante.
Definitely. And it's interesting how those kills, even though they are super gruesome,
Yeah,
they also, contribute to the whole mood of the film, that feeling of dread and vulnerability.
right. No one is safe. Keeps you on the edge of your
It
seat.
definitely does.
So as the body count rises, panic starts to spread at Pinehurst. The sheriff thinks Jason is back,
Makes sense, right?
but everyone else, like the mayor, they refuse to believe it.
Probably trying to avoid a panic.
Yeah, keep things quiet.
Makes the situation even worse, though.
Oh, totally. And then there's Tommy. Poor guy. He's struggling with his own demons, seeing visions of Jason.
Oh, man, can you imagine?
It's hard to tell what's real and what's just in his head.
That's exactly what they wanted you to feel.
Right. The filmmakers blur the line between reality and nightmares.
It makes you question Tommy's sanity along with him. Like, is he losing it, or is Jason back for revenge?
It's such a brilliant way to build suspense. You never know what to believe. And then it all leads up to that insane showdown in the barn.
Yeah, that final showdown.
You think you've got it all figured out. You think you know who the killer is.
And then
Bam, the mask comes off.
it's not Jason.
Nope. Roy Burns.
Talk about a plot twist.
It changes the whole film. It's not just about stopping a supernatural killer anymore. It's about Roy, his motive, why he's doing all of this.
And it gets complicated, right? Because Roy's not like Jason.
No, not some unstoppable force.
He's a grieving father.
Driven to madness by losing his son.
It adds this whole layer to the film's take on violence.
Absolutely. But even after Roy's unmasked, even after his rampage is over, the film ends with this. Well, disturbing scene.
At the hospital,
Tommy, seemingly traumatized.
attacking Pam with a machete.
It's like the film is asking, who's the real monster now?
It's an ending that stays with you, for sure. Makes you think.
So before we get into how A New Beginning impacted the Friday the 13th franchise, what are your initial thoughts? What stood out to you?
Honestly, the misdirection, the suspense, they keep you guessing the whole time. You think you're watching a typical slasher, but it's so much more than that.
Totally agree. And for me, it's Tommy's story that hits hard. He's not just a survivor. He's carrying the weight of his trauma, the fear of becoming the thing he fears the most.
That theme runs deep. It makes A New Beginning so much more than just blood and guts.
It makes you think, challenges you, and in the end leaves you with more questions than answers.
Which, let's be honest, is what a good horror film should do.
Right. Leave you disturbed, wanting more.
Definitely.
So we'll be back in a bit to dive into the legacy of this film and how it shaped the Friday the 13th franchise.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned.
You know, thinking about A New Beginning, what really hits me is that idea of inherited rage.
Inherited rage.
Yeah, you see it with Tommy, right? Haunted by Jason. And then there's Roy, consumed by losing his son Joey. It's like the film is saying violence can be passed down, like a gene or something.
Oh, wow, yeah,
Oh.
like a messed up family tree of trauma.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
And it makes you think about the impact, how violence echoes through generations, not just the immediate victims.
Right, right, the ripple effects. It adds a whole other level to those kill scenes.
It's not just about the gore, It's deeper.
Speaking of which, the production of this film was kind of a mess, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. A New Beginning had a tough time getting made.
Script problems, casting issues.
Legal battles, even. Almost shut the whole thing down.
I heard they originally planned to have Jason as the killer.
Oh, really?
Imagine how different it would have been.
That's crazy. I guess the legal stuff with using Jason got too complicated.
So they had to come up with a new villain.
On the fly. That's how we got Roy Burns.
Talk about thinking on your feet. But it's interesting how they made this new character fit into the whole Friday the 13th world.
Yeah, they kept that sense of mystery and suspense.
Shows how creative the writers and the director were.
Danny Steinman.
Yeah, Steinman. He took a potential disaster and turned it into something new and unexpected.
For sure. And speaking of Steinman, he gave A New Beginning a really unique look, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, his style is all over this film.
The lighting, the shadows, the way he uses the camera, it creates this creepy, claustrophobic atmosphere.
Like danger's always right there.
Which of course it is.
Yeah.
And don't forget the music. Those synth sounds.
So eerie. Really ramps up the tension.
Harry Manfredini, the composer, he nailed it.
So, let's talk about the cast a bit. John Shepherd played Tommy Jarvis in this one. Big shoes to fill after Corey Feldman in the final chapter.
He did great, though. He really captured Tommy's struggles.
That feeling of always being on edge.
Haunted by the past, you totally believe he's about to lose it.
And Melanie Kinnaman as Pam
She was great.
brought so much warmth to the role.
Yeah, she's like this voice of reason and all the chaos. You can't help but root for her.
Even though you know things are probably not going to end well.
Probably not. And we can't forget Dick Wiend as Roy Burns.
Oh, he was terrifying.
He played that desperation, that brutality so well. Really chilling performance.
Okay, before we move on, I got to ask. Where does A New Beginning rank for you in the whole Friday the 13th series? Hidden gem, or does it deserve the hate it gets?
Tough question. For me, A New Beginning is flawed, but it's interesting.
Flawed but interesting. I like that.
It's bold, it takes risks. It's not afraid to push the boundaries, not your typical slasher flick.
Yeah, I'm starting to agree with you. Not perfect, but definitely memorable.
Definitely. And you think about it more with each viewing. You notice new details, new layers. You can't say that about every slasher film.
All right, so before we give our final verdict on A New Beginning and look at its impact, let's take a quick break. All right, we're back, ready to finish up our deep dive into Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. We've talked about the plot twists, the crazy kill scenes, the drama behind the scenes, and that ending. What an ending. So let's wrap it all up and give our final verdict on this film.
There's been a lot of talk about A New Beginning, a lot of controversy even.
Definitely controversial.
But I think it's a film that deserves a second look. More credit than it gets.
I think you're right. It's easy to just write it off as another slasher film, but it's not that simple.
It really makes you think about violence, about trauma, how it keeps coming back. It asks some tough questions about sanity and madness. And it does all that while still giving you the scares, the thrills you expect from a Friday the 13th movie.
It doesn't shy away from the horror, that's for sure. But yeah, I agree. It subverts your expectations, and that's what makes it so interesting. And you can't deny it had a huge impact on the whole franchise.
Huge impact. It opened the door for the later films to do more, to try new things with the storytelling and explore deeper themes. It showed that Friday the 13th could be more than just slashers.
It changed the game, even though that wasn't the plan at first. And some fans weren't happy that Jason wasn't the killer, but I think it made his return in Jason Lives even better.
Oh yeah, totally. Because he was gone in A New Beginning, it made everyone want him back even more. The anticipation, the excitement was huge. The franchise needed that.
So let's get down to it. On a scale of 1 to 5 bloody machetes, how would you rate Friday the 13th, A New Beginning?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5.
3.5?
Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's ambitious. It takes risks and tries new things.
I'm with you on that. It has flaws, but I find myself coming back to it. There's just something about it that pulls me in.
It's a movie that makes you think.
All right, so if you haven't seen Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. Just be ready for a wild ride.
Yeah, and even if you have seen it, maybe it's time to watch it again. You might see it in a new light.
That's it for our deep dive into Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. We want to hear your thoughts on this one.
Hey.
Did you love it, hate it, or somewhere in between? Head over to our social media and let us know.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the world of horror and beyond.
Until next time, stay curious.